G'day guys and gal. Just wanted to say a quick happy new year. I'm hoping 2021 goes a little bit better, but considering my city just got its first case of Nurgle's rot in over 2 months, I'm not holding my breath. I've got big plans for this year, and considering we hit 150k subs before the end of 2020, I will get the live action hentai photo shoot done for you guys as well. In regards to the Custodes cosplay, I've gotten all the bits to it, however I'm also coming off a 2-week bender, and it'll take a couple weeks for me to get the abs popping again, so expect that relatively soon. The new Homebrew Adventures animation is also under production, although a bit slow. And if we're talking about resolutions or goals for this year, then it's to take out Arch in the subs race. I mean, I reckon I'll smash through One Mind Syndicate and 40k Theories before June, and then Arch should get sodomized around the September to November mark. What, you think just because I hit 150k I'd be satisfied? No chance, Chich, the war never ends. The gods in Warhammer 40k are pretty active, and have a massive effect on the galaxy as a whole, for once religion actually matters. Some of these gods sit back, smoke a doobie, and stroke themselves in peace, while others try to micromanage their followers like they're playing Nightmare difficulty on The Sims. Occasionally, they even try to enter the material realm and ruin everyone's day. Regardless of how they use their power, some are more powerful than others, and certain gods have even killed each other in the past. Today we'll go over the top 10 strongest gods in Warhammer 40k. I will not be assessing their ranking based on their power output, this isn't bloody Dragon Ball Z, but instead on their overall impact on the setting and feats they have achieved. For example, despite Titsnitch pretty much losing a straight up fight to most of the characters on this list, I consider him more powerful than most of them due to his strength and impact lying on his intelligence and planning, if that makes sense. I'll also be measuring each god at the height of their power. Let's get into it. The first entry on this list is actually quite weak, but has an insane amount of impact on the setting and has caused the death and damnation of gods way stronger than he. We have Kegorak. I think that's how you say it, it's taken me a long time to figure that out. The Laughing God, aka the Meme God, aka arguably the most impactful Elder God there is, and the one of the 2 Elder entries on this list. I'm sure you can already guess the other one. Now before you throw a tanty and are like, but Vol, but Asurian, sure, their Kamehamehas might pack a bigger punch, but it was the Meme God who convinced the Catan to kill each other, the Meme God who told Cain how to destroy the Nightbringer, and the Meme God who was able to escape Slaaneish's rape fest completely intact, the only Elder God to do so. In a biblical tier list, David ranks higher than Goliath, cause David killed Goliath in a fair 1v1, despite Goliath being able to shove his fist so far up David's ass that he could knock his teeth out from the inside. In Dark Souls, the bosses can kill you in one hit, and take dozens of hits to be killed themselves, yet you are the one that eventually beats the game and kills them all. Even in the current setting, Kegorak's Harlequins are the bridge between the different Eldar factions, and have guided them on a genuine offensive against Slaanesh. Kegorak has even created a plan to beat Slaanesh if the Ynnari fail. The cool part of Kegorak is that he achieves so much by barely lifting a finger. Like a charismatic dude who somehow found the favour of the Eldar gods could pull off something similar. Our number 9 spot is Slaanesh. Now before you get your dick in a twist or a rash on your gash, hear me out. Slaanesh is very young in the grand scheme of things and is not a pure chaos god. She was created by the extreme blood orgies that the Elder had for years. She was not a fundamental aspect of emotion and life like Khorne, Nurgle and Titsnitch are. She's basically just an evil Eldar god. As such, she's not as strong as the other chaos gods. At the moment of her birth, when she was brimming with power, she was able to eat 90% of the Eldar gods, but couldn't beat Cain, the Eldar god of war, despite him being incredibly weakened from a lack of worship, as well as the majority of the Eldar being killed. Like, fucking eating Lilith and Kernos doesn't seem that grave of a feat when you realize that they're more or less just the big ass moon and deer respectively. It was Khorne who shattered Cain, and Khorne who then kicked Slaanesh's ass. To top it off, Nurgle then came in, also kicked Slaanesh's ass, and then took Isha for himself. If we then look at the galactic stage, Slaanesh is really doing fuck all. Fulgrim has been molesting himself for thousands of years, the Empress children are borderline extinct, and all their best demons are busy fighting the Eldar. Even Lucius, Slaanesh's champion, gets massacred time and time again. only to come back because Daddy said so. Sure, if the galaxy re-entered another huge blood orgy, then Slaanesh could rise to the top of the power list, but the odds of that happening are about as likely as One Mind Syndicate uploading a video which breaks 20,000 views this year. It's just not gonna happen. Just edging past Slaanesh, now we have Kain. As this list is the gods in their prime, Kain well and truly deserves a spot here. He was unbelievably powerful, and was more or less the greatest super weapon the Old Ones had in the War of Heaven. He cut down the Catan gods in their prime, and even tried to genocide the Eldar race when he heard they were talking shit about him. He had really bad anger management. Even in his weakened state, he was able to fight a newly formed overcharged Slaanesh to a standstill. While it is a bit of a sad meme that his shards are weak as piss and trip over and die on their own swords, they are still really strong, able to take out greater demons and give Primarchs a run for their money. Kain was shattered into 1,000 shards if not more. That means, at minimum, Kain is about 1,000 times stronger than a Primarch. I would even go as far as to say that if fully restored, that multiple would explode to 10,000 or more. It would actually be a really cool Eldar subplot if one of the craft worlds, let's say Baal Tan, in their desperation, start reforging the shards of Kain together in a desperate attempt to beat Slaanesh. Obviously Kain is a massive dick and this would have huge consequences for everyone, but could be really fun to see regardless. There is one Catan god that is above the rest, one that probably even Kain couldn't defeat, the Void Dragon. The Catan were the gods of the physical universe. Their existence is tied to every atom formed from the Big Bang. It was said that the Void Dragon was the only Catan to avoid getting smashed into shards, but we now know that is untrue. It took Vol and all of his Blackstone fortresses, each one a more or less a Death Star, as well as exploiting a weakness to beat the Void Dragon. Even hit with what can only be described as a galactic scale anal eviscerating laser beam, a huge shard of the Void Dragon was able to escape and avoid the fate of all his brothers. This would be the shard that was beaten and imprisoned on Mars by the Emperor, but the Big E, who at this point was probably called the Little E, was only able to beat the Void Dragon due to exploiting a weakness, a gap in the armor likely caused by Vol's collection of Death Stars. Now he might be sounding a bit weak because I've only really talked about him getting his ass kicked, but he was the god of technology, and considering how much of that shit is in 40k, that's a big deal. He could create invincible warriors, and he was the one that invented the Necron pylons, which were capable of permanently defeating the warp. Also, a Blackstone fortress has the power to destroy a planet, with 3 of them able to destroy a star, so getting hit with all of them, I believe it was about 7 but could be higher, really fucking sucks. Especially if you believe the theory that the power from each Blackstone fortress is multiplied, not added to each other. Next up is the Tyranid Hivemind. Now whilst Tyranids may very well be the most powerful faction in 40k, this list isn't ranking their factions. The Tyranid Hivemind is like the internet. It's not this huge cosmic Cthulhu looking motherfucker, but a sentient being that is formed from the collective synapses of all the different Tyranids. Straight up, it's not that physically powerful, and likely doesn't even have a physical form, but due to how involved it is with everything, it's incredibly dangerous. Every decision a Tyranid Hive Fleet makes is a direct order from its god, the Hivemind. It's not like a Chaos God who just lays out some basic guidelines and suggestions before telling its kids to go have fun. The Hivemind micromanages the fuck out of the Tyranids. To fight the Tyranids is to fight a god, hence why they're so powerful. In saying this though, there's been times where other non-god characters have been able to punch the Hivemind in the face. For example, the Ultramarine Librarian Tigurius was able to use his powers, combined with Malcador's staff, to channel a part of the Astronomicon into the Hivemind and hurt it. Any other god on this list would laugh at a Space Marine's attempts to hurt them, but the Hivemind actually copped a bit of a left-right goodnight here. To be fair, Tigurius is an Ultramarine, and even without Matt Ward sucking them off, some Ultramarines are still retardedly overpowered, but it does go to show that despite the Hivemind not being super powerful as a god, it's still an incredibly dangerous one. Next up is Papa Nurgle, the second Chaos God on this list. Now, whilst it has been said that during times of intense galactic plague, Nurgle can become even more powerful than the other 3 Chaos Gods combined, but that hasn't really happened and it's pretty fluky, and if it ever actually did happen, Nurgle would probably then just use that newfound power to sit down and continue rubbing AIDS juice on himself. Yeah, he's not really the one to take initiative. As Nurgle represents stagnation and is anti-change, he doesn't like doing big stuff. On the other side of that coin, however, he's extremely difficult to move or cleanse. 9 times out of 10, when the forces of Nurgle invade a planet, that planet gets exterminatus. Even if you clear out all the demons and Death Guard, everything is so covered in AIDS and munt that you are left with no choice but to burn it all down. Nurgle is always a disaster to fight. When his forces led by Mortarion fought against Perturabo and his Iron Warriors, Morty was victorious despite Purdy being a better commander and having bigger guns. This was due to how insanely resilient Nurglite forces are, combined with their auras which automatically wear down and decay everything around them. It was the forces of Nurgle who have most recently invaded Ultramar in recent times, and during the recent invasion of Fenris, the only world in the star system that could not be saved was the one invaded by Nurgle's armies. Fuck versing Nurgle. It's time. Our next spot goes to the God Emperor of Mankind. Now right now you're either saying, heresy, the Big E is the greatest, or, but Major Kill, the Emperor isn't even a god. To which I say you're both fucking wrong, so shut the fuck up and let the Lawmaster do the talking. The Emperor was not always a god. He only became one after a few years of being on the Golden Throne due to the sextillions of people worshipping him. This is evident by the fact that his current physical body would probably lose an arm wrestle to Stephen Hawking, yet he is able to power the Astronomicon, spawn Imperial demons such as Living Saints and Legion of the Damned, and manifest his powers on the opposite side of the galaxy at will. All the while, the 4 Chaos Gods are doing everything in their power to destroy him. In current lore, the Emperor was an extremely overpowered psyker created by thousands of shamans killing themselves and merging their souls into a super being. That being would then go on to use his knowledge, technology, and power stealing abilities to become more and more OP. Eventually, his bold dickhead son Horus turned him into a vegetable, forcing him to sit on a very uncomfortable golden throne, where he is now in constant agony as he spends every moment giving humanity as much time as possible. Now, a lot of people think that the Big E is in a big fight with all 4 Chaos Gods simultaneously all the time, but it's not really the case. The Big E is holding them back, like an electric fence holds back a pedophile. He's not attacking them or threatening them directly, and it has been stated to say that if he did jump over his fence to have a punch on with said pedo, it would end in his molestation. Whenever they try and confront him directly in the warp, the Emperor retreats from them. That's not to say he's weak by any means. When an Elder saw his spirit, it was like a gigantic mountain of blinding light, and the Elder actually felt silly for looking down on humanity for a second there. It is weird though, like, the Big E is super powerful right now, but he's also super unwell. Like, when he first got on the Golden Throne, he told Chaos to eat shit and die, but now he's like begging for help and the sweet release of death. Poor guy. Now it's time for some blood for the Blood God, baby. Khorne. It's a huge toss-up between who is the most powerful Chaos God, Titsnich or Khorne. After all, in an alternate timeline, the Khornite invasion of Terra ends with 8 Bloodthirsters of Khorne killing the Emperor. But that was an alternate timeline, not the true one, so it doesn't really count. From raw power, Khorne is the greatest, as he is the god of war, and unsurprisingly, there is a lot of war in the universe of Warhammer. He is at the forefront of every conflict and battle, his greater demons being known as some of the most powerful. There is even a passage that basically says, if Slaanesh pisses off Khorne enough, Khorne could potentially destroy the entire universe in a fit of rage. But that won't happen because GW would go bankrupt, and it would be a pretty retarded way to end the setting. To try put into perspective Khorne's power, part of his thing is that he doesn't care from whence the blood flows. Considering there are a metric fuckton of women aged between 13 and 50 in Warhammer 40k, that's a lot of blood flow he's been empowered by. On to number 2 now, we have Titsnich, the greatest of the Chaos Gods. Early in his career, Titsnich got so powerful that Khorne and Nurgle had to team up to kick his ass. They shattered Titsnich's form into thousands of pieces, which Titsnich continues gathering to this day. So at the height of his power, it's confirmed that he was the most powerful. But even post this, he's still incredible and I think still on top of them. The impact he has had on the galaxy as a whole is second to none. Without Titsnich, the Emperor would have completed his Webway project and Chaos wouldn't have stood a chance. Horus would have died years before he got to Terra. It was Titsnich who tricked the Magnus into ruining the Big E's Webway project. Titsnich Titsnich who united Chaos and caused the Horus Heresy. Titsnich is super involved in the great game that Chaos plays, and he's really the only one that keeps it tipped in Chaos's favour. The other three are just too retarded to do that. It's kind of funny though, because Titsnich loves the great game, and he loves Warhammer, but he's too good at it, so whenever he feels like he's getting too far ahead, or the game looks like it's coming to an end, he'll sabotage himself or Chaos in order to balance it out a bit. It's like in certain online games where you're loving the game, but your opponent is falling behind and could be crushed, but you don't do it because you want to drag out the game as much as possible because you're having fun. That's Titsnich. Finally, our number one spot, by far the most powerful god/gods in Warhammer 40k, Gork and Mork. When I first got into 40k, I never really gave the orcs the respect they deserved, which to be fair neither is Games Workshop. I always thought Gork and Mork were these random noobs jerking each other off in the corner, whilst all the greenskins kiddos just attacked everything. Now, while this isn't entirely inaccurate, Gork and Mork are not noobs. They are just too busy punching each other and stomping around to crumple the other gods. I'm not kidding, it's been stated in lore that they can never be defeated and that many other gods have tried to attack them, which just causes them to shrug off the attack and then laugh at the attacker, before then kicking their ass back to whatever corner of hell they came from. The opening of the Great Rift has been a huge delight for Gork and Mork, as now they can just throw their orcs all over the galaxy at random. The orcs call the rift Gork's Grin after all. To help back up my claim, orcs are the most numerous things in the galaxy. They breed like rabbits on Viagra. Each orc is a complete and utter fanatic to Gork and Mork, and all of them have a pretty strong connection to the warp, so you can imagine the kind of power they would give to their gods. They have the same attitude of Titsnich in that they don't want the galaxy to end, and they don't really want to win, so as long as their orcs are thriving, Gork and Mork are happy to crump each other across the warp, rattling Khorne's Skull Throne, knocking over Nurgle's Cauldron, and crashing Slaanesh's swinger parties. The gods of Warhammer 40k are really interesting and a lot of fun. They're also tough as shit, and hopefully you now see why. And that does it for today guys, the top 10 strongest gods in Warhammer 40k. If you enjoyed the video and want to support the channel, then Patreon is the place to be, where only $1 per month give you access to a boatload of Warhammer hentai. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the real subscribe button for more godly content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.